Hi friends, I welcome you all in the lecture series for AMVI Mains Examination, a complete guide. Today in this lecture, we will be discussing about second law of thermodynamics. The objectives of this lecture are to introduce the second law of thermodynamics, discuss thermal energy reservoirs, heat engines, refrigerators, and heat pumps. Then describe the Kelvin Planck and Clausius statements of the second law of thermodynamics. Then determine the expressions for thermal efficiencies and COPs for heat engines, heat pumps, and refrigerators respectively. And at last, discuss the concepts of perpetual motion machines. Let us, let us start with the limitations of first law of thermodynamics. Let us start with one common experience that a cup of hot coffee kept in a cooler room. That hot coffee will cool off eventually after some time. So this process satisfies the first law of thermodynamics, since the amount of energy lost by this coffee is equal to the amount of heat gained by the surrounding air. Now let us consider the reverse process. The hot coffee getting even hotter in a cooler room as a result of heat transfer from the cool that room air. Okay, we all know that this process never takes place, and it doing so would not violate the first law as long as the amount of energy lost by this air is equal to the amount of gained by the copy. As another familiar example, let us take another. Consider heating of a room by the passage of electric current through a resistor. Again, the first law dictates that the amount of electrical energy supplied to the resistance wire be equal to the amount of energy transferred to the room air as heat. Correct. Now let us attempt to the reverse this process. It will come as no surprise that transferring some heat to the wires does not cause an equivalent amount of electrical energy to be generated in this wire. Finally, it is clear from these arguments that process proceed in a certain direction only, not in a reverse direction. The first law places no restrictions on the direction of process. This is a limitation. But satisfying the first law does not ensure that the process can actually occur or not. So this inadequacy of the first law to identify whether a process can take place is remedied by introducing another general principle called as second law of thermodynamics. Getting? We should discuss this in this lecture that the reverse process which violate the above, that is second law of thermodynamics. So this violation is easily detected with the help of one property called as entropy, and a process cannot occur unless it satisfies the both law, that is first and second law of thermodynamics. This point to be noted. So there are numerous valid statements of the second law of thermodynamics. Two such statements are presented and discussed later in this video in relation to some engineering devices that operates on cycle. The use of second law of thermodynamics limited to is not limited to the identifying the direction of the process. However, the second law of thermodynamics also asserts that energy has a quality and as well as quantity. The first law is concerned only with the quantity of energy and the transformation of energy from one form to another with no regard to its quality. Preserving the quality of the energy is a major concern to the engineers, and the second law provides the necessary means to determine the quality as well as the degree of degradation of the that energy during that your process. As we know that more of temperature, high temperature energy can be converted to the work, and thus it has a higher quality than the same amount of energy at a lower temperature. So the second law of thermodynamics is also used in determining the theoretical limits for the performance of commonly used engineering systems such as heat engines and refrigerators, etc. So here I have given some interpretations about the second law of thermodynamics. Okay, so let us start with some basic terms, that is thermal energy reservoirs. Okay, so this thermal energy reservoirs is defined as a large body of infinite heat capacity which is capable of absorbing or rejecting an unlimited quantity of heat without suffering appreciable change in its thermodynamic conditions coordinates. All processes are quasi-static. Now, in that again, in practical practice, large bodies of water such as oceans, lakes, and rivers, as well as the atmospheric air, can be modeled accurately as a thermal energy reservoirs because of their larger thermal energy storage capacities. Okay, and a reservoir that supplies the energy in the form of heat is called source. Is called source, and one that absorbs energy in the form of heat, no, it is called as sink. Heat sink. The thermal energy reservoirs are often referred to the heat reservoirs. Okay, this point should be noted, and since they supply or absorb energy in the form of heat. Okay, this is basic term. Now let us start with the heat engines. So as pointed out earlier, work can easily be converted to other form of energy, but converting other form of energy to a work is not that easy. The mechanical work done by the shaft as shown in this figure, for example, is firstly this mechanical energy is firstly converted to the internal energy of the water, and this energy may then leave the water as a heat. We know from experience that any attempt to reverse this process will fail. That is, transferring heat to the water does not cause the shaft to rotate. From this and another observations, we conclude that work can be converted to heat directly and completely. But converting heat to the work requires the use of some special devices, and these special devices are called heat engines. Are called heat engines. So heat engines differ considerably from the another devices, but all can be characterized by this all points. So first characteristic is that they receive heat from high temperature source, that is oil furnace, for example oil furnace, nuclear reactor, etc. Again next is they convert part of this heat to the work. They reject the remaining waste heat to the low temperature reservoir, and they operate in a cycle. So these are the characteristics. So heat engine is a device which working in a cycle and converts energy in the form of heat into the work. Now what is thermal efficiency of heat engine? So the fraction of the heat input that is converted to net work output is a measure of the performance of a heat engine and is called the thermal efficiency. So thermal efficiency eta T is equal to net work output divided by total heat input, and mathematically eta Th is equal to W net out divided by Qn. Correct. Since this W net is equal to Q in minus Q out. So eta TH is equal to 1 minus Q out divided by Q in. Correct. So that is a formula to calculate the thermal efficiency of heat engine. Now you can see here in this diagram. So cyclic devices of the practical interest such as heat engines, refrigerators and heat pumps operate between a high temperature medium or a reservoir at temperature TH and a low temperature medium or a reservoir at a low temperature, that is TL. Okay, so to bring uniformity to the treatment of heat engines, refrigerators and heat pump, we define these two quantities, that is QH. QH means magnitude of heat transfer between the cyclic device and temperature, high temperature medium at temperature TH, and another QL, magnitude of heat transfer between cyclic device and low temperature medium at temperature TL. Now notice that both QL and QH are defined as magnitude and therefore these are positive quantities. Correct. So the direction of QH and QL is easily determined by inspection. Then the net work output and the thermal efficiency relations for any heat engine can be expressed as Q net out is equal to, sorry, W net out is equal to QH minus QL. Okay, and eta T, that is thermal efficiency is equal to W net out divided by QH. And by simplifying, eta TH is equal to 1 minus QL divided by QH. So the thermal efficiency of a heat engine is always less than unity, since both QL and QH are defined as a positive quantities. Okay, you can see in this formula also. Okay, so in short I can say thermal efficiency is a measure of how efficiently a heat engine convert the heat that receives to work. So heat engines are built for the purpose of converting heat to work. So this is the purpose of heat engine. Now refrigerator. So we all know from experience that heat is transferred in the direction of decreasing temperature. Correct. So that is from high temperature medium to low temperature once. So this heat transfer process occurs in a nature without requiring any device, and the reverse process however cannot occur by itself. So the transfer of heat from low temperature medium to a high temperature one requires special devices and it is called refrigerator. Okay, so refrigerators like heat engines, it is also cyclic device, and the working fluid used in this refrigeration cycle, it is called refrigerant. The most frequently used refrigeration cycle is the vapor compression refrigeration cycle, which is involved for components. So details about this we are going to discuss in the next lectures. Okay. Now coefficient of performance. So the efficiency of a refrigerator is expressed in the terms of coefficient of performance, that is COP, and it is denoted by COPR. Okay. Now this is a figure of refrigerator. Now the objective of a refrigerator is to remove heat, that is this QL, okay, from this refrigerated space. Now the mathematically COP of the refrigerator we can calculate by this formula, desired output divided by required input. And the conservation of energy principle for a cyclic device requires that Q net in is equal to W net in is equal to QH minus QL. So COP formula will become is equal to COPR is equal to QL divided by QH minus QL, and by simplifying we will get the COP of refrigerator is equal to 1 divided by QH divided by QL minus 1. So this relation we can use to calculate the coefficient of performance of refrigerator. Now here notice that the value of this COP can be greater than unit, and that is the amount of heat removed from the refrigerated space can be greater than the amount of work input. This is the contrast to the thermal efficiency of heat engine, which can be never be greater than 1. In fact, one reason for expressing the efficiency of a refrigerator by another term, that is the coefficient of performance, is the desire to avoid audit oddity of having efficiency greater than unity. Okay. Now another one more cycle device is a heat pump. Now heat pump again transport the heat from low temperature medium to high temperature medium, and the refrigerators and the heat pumps are essentially the same devices, and they differ only their objective only. So refrigerator is to maintain the refrigerated space at a low temperature, and on the other hand a heat pump absorbs the heat from the low temperature source and supply the heat to a warmer medium. So this is the objective, and you can see the objective of the refrigerator and the heat pump with this schematic diagram. So the objective of this refrigerator, that is desired output, I have shown here, and the objective of heat pump I have shown here. Okay. Now how to calculate the performance of heat pump? So the performance of heat pumps is also expressed in terms of the coefficient of performance, that is COP. So COP of heat pump is equal to desired output divided by required input, and mathematically COP is equal to QH divided by W net in, and by simplifying we will get the formula QH divided by QH minus QL. Okay, again by simplification we will get the COP of heat pump is equal to 1 divided by 1 minus QL divided by QH. So this is a mathematical formula, and by comparing this equation with the COP of a refrigerator, we'll get the one relation, and that is COP of heat pump is equal to COP of refrigerator plus 1. So for fixed value of QL and QH, this relation implies that coefficient of performance of a heat pump is always greater than the unity, since COP of refrigerator is a positive quantity. That is, heat pump will function at worst as a resistance heater, supplying as much energy to the house as it consumes. So in reality, however, a part of QH is lost to the outside air through the piping and other devices, and COP of heat pump may drop below the unity when the outside air temperature is too low. Okay. Now let us discuss the main point, that is the second law of thermodynamics. So as I have already mentioned that the second law of thermodynamics have the two statements, and we have already demonstrated with reference to the heat engine shown in the last slide. Even under ideal conditions, heat engine must reject some heat to a low temperature reservoir in order to complete the cycle. Okay, that point we know that. So that is, no heat engine can convert all heat it receives to useful work. So this limitation on the thermal efficiency of heat engines forms the basis for the Kelvin-Planck statement of the second law of thermodynamics, which is expressed as follows. It is impossible for any system to operate in a cyclic thermodynamic cycle and deliver a net amount of work to its surrounding while receiving an energy transfer by heat from a single thermal reservoir. In short, it is impossible for any device that operates on a cycle to receive heat from a single reservoir and produce a net amount of work. Again, in other words, no heat engine can have thermal efficiency of 100%. Okay, and you can see in this figure also. Okay, no heat engine can have a thermal efficiency of 100%. So this is the first statement of second law of thermodynamics, that is Kelvin-Planck statement. And a heat engine that violates the Kelvin-Planck statement of the second law cannot be built. That is impossible. So please keep in mind this statement. Now notice that here impossibility of having 100% efficiency of heat engine is not due to the friction or other dissipative effect. It is a limitation that applies to the both idealized and the actual heat engines. Later in this video I am going to talk about the other part. Now let us discuss the second statement, that is Clausius statement of the second law of thermodynamics. Now there are two classical statement of the second law. The first was the Kelvin-Planck statement, which is related to heat engines and discussed in the preceding section only. And the second statement, that is Clausius statement, which is related to the refrigerators or heat pump. So the Clausius statement is expressed as it is impossible to construct a device that operates in a cycle and produces no effect other than transfer of heat from low temperature body to a higher temperature body. So it is common knowledge that heat does not, or it often violate transfer heat from a cold medium to warmer one. It is not possible. So the Clausius statement does not imply that cyclic device that transfer heat from a cold medium to warmer one is impossible to construct. In fact, this is precisely what a common household refrigerator does. Okay, so it simply states that refrigerator cannot operate unless its a compressor is driven by external power source such as electric motor. Okay, so heat cannot flow from itself from a system low temperature to system at high temperature. Okay, it always require the some external work. Okay, now we have repeatedly stated that a process cannot take place unless it satisfies both first law and the second law of thermodynamics, and any devices that violates either law is called perpetual motion machine. And despite numerous attempts, no perpetual motion machine is known to have worked. But this have not stopped inventor from trying to create one. So the device that violates the first law of thermodynamics by or by creating the energy is called a perpetual motion machine of the first kind, PMM1, and a device that violates the second law of thermodynamics is called perpetual motion machine of the second kind, that is a PMM-K2. Okay, so without violating the first law, a machine can be imagined which could continuously absorb heat from a single reservoir and could convert this heat completely into the work. And the efficiency of such a machine would be 100%. And the machine is called perpetual machine of the second kind, that is PMM2. Here you can see. So when the thermal energy is equivalent to the work done, this does not violate the law of energy conservation of energy. However, it does violate more second law of thermodynamics. So this is about the PMM second kind of machine. So for today's lecture, this much part is covered. So in the next lecture, we'll discuss the third law of thermodynamics. So please stay tuned for more videos regarding RTO means examination. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to receive notifications regarding more videos from this lecture series. Let's crack. Thank you very much.